All right, everybody. Welcome to Lager Stouts and Coming Out. My name is Toni 2 Pint, and this is April Newly, me, my wife, and together we run an organization called Black and Soul, focused on Black and queer identities. Um, so today, it's National Coming Out Day for everybody. We're going to talk about our stories here and kind of how you can be a safe person to be invited into somebody's identity for them to share who they are with you, and kind of how that shows up for us in beer and also as Black people. So we can go ahead and kick it off and start with April. If you want to tell everybody about your coming out story.
Yeah, I'm not going to really focus too much on my coming out story because it's like 2 sentences. My mom and dad are very accepting people as is. There's always that fear though, that because there are situations where like what's okay for others people's kids aren't okay for you. And I know a lot of people who say they're okay with, gay people, but when their child comes out, it's an issue. But for me, it wasn't really anything big. Came downstairs, told my mom, she told me she knew that and stopped being dramatic and to help her cook. Not really a story. So for the most part, that's not, for me, it wasn't a problem coming out. I'm very blessed in that sense. I have a very accepting family overall. I'm not the first person in my family to come out as gay. And I think we're all in the same age group, which is weird. It's me and like 4 of my cousins. I'm like the 5th.
I mean, but did that help you come out knowing that they had already been out and were accepted?
They're completely used to it. And my mom's the type of person that would like cuss someone out because they said something about my cousin. That's where I get it from. So I wasn't really worried. There's always a thing in the back of my head. Well, that was in the back of my head, like she might not be that way with me because I'm actually her daughter, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. For me, I just pretended a lot. Like, if you've met me in person or you've heard me speak or anything about my story, I really don't give a fuck about too much of anything. If it's not this person next to me or my parents, I really don't care. I really don't tend to care about people and how they feel about me. I honestly don't.
You don't care what people think.
I really don't. I'm the type of person that I know off the bat I'm never going to please everyone. I'm not fucking trying. If you don't like me, don't fucking like me. That simple. And I became that way because for such a long time I was pretending. It's very draining to pretend all the time, to be on all the time, to be afraid all the time. So not living in my truth put me in situations where I got hurt, where I got abused, but it's twofold because no one should treat you like that regardless. But I felt like if I lived in my truth, I wouldn't be in that situation to begin with. So after coming out of that and surviving that, I just made a promise to myself that if people don't like me for me, then fuck them.
And when you say pretending, you mean dating men?
Dating men. I was never a gay basher. I was never someone that was homophobic or pretended to be homophobic or pretended to not like gay people or didn't understand them. I just didn't want to identify as being gay. I didn't want anyone to know how I felt. And I just pretended all the time. Friends didn't know, no one in my family knew, no one knew who I was. Sorry, that's the charger going off. But yeah, so it's just for anyone that is scared to come out, I feel like everyone should come out on their own terms and in their own time. No one should be making you or talking you into it, but just always keep in mind that it's abuse to yourself because it's very stressful to be scared all the time, to not have anyone to talk to. And you may go through trials, tribulation, and trauma, and because you don't want anyone to know, you don't tell anyone, and you internalize things. And
that's lonely.
It's very lonely and messes with your mental health. And it's a really miserable way to live, in my opinion, to not be able to be yourself.
There's a question for you, April. How old were you when you came out?
I was like 22, 21.
That's a lot. I mean, but how old were you when you knew?
I was like 12. I had a girlfriend in high school, so
What girlfriend?
my mom just thought we were best friends, and she got
So
to
she
stay
came at your
over
house.
and
Oh Lord.
all that. But no one knew
Yeah,
I
be a
was gay.
safe place for your kids unless you want them to have sleepovers with their significant others. That's what I'm doing.
I didn't do anything that nasty. It was just making out. But still.
But yeah, nah, thanks for that, Zach, that question. But yeah, I think what you're saying about mental health is a good point. And I thought it's ironic that World Mental Health Day, it was yesterday, and National Coming Out Day is today. And those
They
two
go
things
hand in hand.
go so closely hand in hand with each other that, you know, you could really loop it all into one thing for people who are queer. So yeah, but for me, I don't know, my experience was miserable. I mean, I knew I was attracted to women or attracted to other or to girls as a very small child, maybe 5 or 6. The people I liked were girls. I mean, it wasn't, of course, anything sexual as a 5-year-old, but the people I actually liked or had romantic interest in were female. And I was raised in a Black Baptist church in Tennessee. You're not from Tennessee.
Not Tennessee.
But like all of my family is super religious. I'm autistic, for anybody on here who didn't know. So leaning into that helps me understand why I clung so closely to that instead of letting it go sooner. But that gave me problems with reconciling who I was. And, you know, you're raised and taught that that's something for you to deny. And to be completely honest, I tried to do that. You know, I had a lot of internalized homophobia and transphobia. I don't think I knew an actual gay person who was out until I was maybe about 18 years old. And I had a lot of homophobic relatives saying a lot of things about people. I'm like, well, shit, I didn't tell them anything about what's going on in my head or what I'm thinking. You know, they use slurs or talked about how people needed to go to church or get saved and all of this other stuff. Honestly, the most accepting person was probably my little brother, Alex. And even when I would say stuff that was homophobic, he's like, why are you saying that? Don't you think, wouldn't you want to marry somebody if you love them? Why are you talking like this? And he said that no matter, you know, what anybody around him was saying. And he's, you know, married to my sister-in-law there and expecting, so I'm pretty excited for that. But this is my younger brother telling me this, and, you know, we butt heads about that. But then he ended up being one of the first people I came out to. So I struggled for years and years and years of trying to reconcile that with my faith, trying to cling, as they say, to the old rugged cross, and basically deny that part of myself, convince a guy to marry me so I could be right with the Lord in my head and with my family. Because I was seen as a kid that, you know, that was good at school, people like me, but I was always very masculine presenting, even as a small kid. I think I posted a picture of me with a Ninja Turtle birthday cake.
Yeah.
I had on knee shorts and a polo shirt. I never wore that skirt school uniform. I hated that. So I only wore that if I was made to. So I don't think anybody was really surprised, but, you know, I went in and out of like these mental health treatment centers. I got misdiagnosed with a bunch of shit, but a lot of it really was that you were just fucking gay and not you. You don't have any. I struggle with relationships, but it's like you don't have any friends because you're not telling anybody who you are. They're not gonna be friends with you if you're not gonna be you.
Yeah.
So I went through that, and one day I just blurted out on the phone in tears to my mom that I'm gay and I'm going to all of this and all of it, and I am tired. And she said, well, I don't see a problem. You could have said so many other things that would kill me or have me believing I did something wrong. But if this is something you can't help, we have to be okay with that and learn and stuff. And that brought me a comfort that I hadn't seen. Like I had gone through all these mental health issues. I didn't have stable relationships. And then combining that also with autism makes it really hard for you to have any type of relationship that means anything at all. So that's kind of my first coming out. I came out to the rest of my family pretty gradually. I didn't really talk to anybody about it. But when I started dating April, I talked to Alex about it, and my other cousin, Jay is probably the least toxically masculine guy that I've ever met. And he's my younger cousin. His birthday's this month too. He'll be 30. But yeah, that I came out to them and a couple of my friends. And when I moved away and came back to Los Angeles after working in Oregon for a year, I decided, at work, I'm going to be honest about, I'm engaged to this woman. And when I got engaged to April, my mom just told everybody else.
We have that in common. Our moms are like walking newsletters.
And not that I would recommend you doing that on someone's behalf, but I will be honest that brought me comfort that I didn't have to do it. And she also threatened people that we're not gonna do that.
No foolishness.
Zach, was the rest of your family as receptive as your mom? Not really. People like my Aunt Sharon is probably one of the most receptive people. And crazy thing enough, that's who I used to go to church with. And when she figured out, she was like, she's married someone named April. That's why she's been tortured. And she actually flew out and saw us get married. It's my favorite auntie, my favorite lady. But no, everybody was not as receptive. And that's one of the reasons I don't live in Memphis. I only take April to certain people's houses and into certain situations. I would never place her in any situation that was unsafe. So there was that, but it was very lonesome and very crazy for a long time. Even when I did start dating women, I was in some fucked up relationships, and then you didn't have anybody to really talk to about it because no one knows you're dating dating a woman, right? So I struggled with that. That was the first time I came out. And of course, a lot of y'all were here for the second time around. But in that situation, for me personally, I remembered how I felt being closeted for so long as what I called then a lesbian. When I figured out, what being non-binary meant, I met Patrice at New Belgium, and they presented themselves as non-binary and talked me through a whole lot of it. And I questioned my gender and then ended up just coming out all over the internet on Twitter. And in my head is like, it was so lonely and I was afraid of so much, and it wasn't even that bad. Now I have, a beautiful wife. I have a beautiful marriage that I would not have had if I hadn't come out. I refuse to stay pent up like that again.
Was it easier for you the second time?
I wouldn't say it was easier. I would say that it was differently received. That most people in the family still don't understand what that means. It doesn't understand what that means at all. But, the biggest thing that made that easy is honestly, it was you. When you said it was, you were all right with that, it's me and you against the world more than anything. But those are my two stories. I'm happy to answer questions if anybody has any on those details. How much has it helped to have supportive friends as chosen family? A lot.
I think me and Toni are blessed because she has some family that's okay. My family's okay. So I feel really, I'm getting teary-eyed. I feel really blessed. So it just adds to it when we have friends that are accepting of us.
Now you need those folks, because even as accepting as your family might be, they're not queer people. Mm-hmm. They don't know they can try to be empathetic, but they're not queer. They don't understand that. That's like having a white friend and trying to explain, I'm Black and I struggle with this, and they might be very empathetic and very supportive, but they don't understand that from your perspective because that's not something that they've lived.
Right.
So I'm very grateful for that. You know, I've gotten a lot of mother figures and sibling figures out of just having relationships. Most of my closest relationships are with Black women.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad to have that. So how do you recommend non-queer folks help support you and not block the intersection? Oh, that's a good one.
Question.
You want to go first?
I think for me, it's just being mindful. Little stuff. Like when I was little, I thought everyone would hate me because of the music I listened to. I listened to a lot of rap. Even some R&B people say stuff like no homo, and anytime they speak of anything gay in a song, it's a negative, it's a pun of a joke. It's so even simple stuff like the music you're listening to, the comedians you're watching. A lot of comedians, make fun of the LGBTQ community.
And we grew up with jokes like that too.
So
that's gay.
It's not, yeah. So it's not surprising when people are like, they're scared to come out because like you feel like the whole fucking world hates you. I can't speak on white people in the LGBT community, but I know specifically for Black people, that hatred is all around us. We already going through shit because we Black. Okay, there's that aspect. Then you put this shit on top of it, and it's a very, I can't even stress enough, it's so miserable. It's a miserable experience. Happiness is few and far between, and that's why the suicide rates are so high, and drug and alcohol use is so high. So I would just say, just to be a good friend is just to create a safe space and to listen. Sometimes when somebody's talking to you or telling you something, you don't need to have a rebuttal or an answer or you should do this or I suggest that. Just sit back and listen to them. So most of the time, they don't have anyone else to talk to. They've probably saying what they're saying to you probably for the first time. And it's probably very hard. So if you can just sit there and just be a comfort, you don't necessarily have to have an answer. Just to be a shoulder to cry on. And if you don't understand something, don't assume, just ask.
And okay, so for me, I'll piggyback on that. I'll answer one first, what you can do in general, and then two, talk about the intersectionality as well. But the first thing you can do is take inventory of who you were and the type of things that you've said and the type of company you've kept. And you have to, if you have done that and participated, and I'm guilty of it too. I just told you I had a lot of internalized homophobia and transphobia as a young person. You have to take inventory of that, and you have to unlearn that and make it clear that you're doing that. No one's going to come out to you if if you've been saying these things, you've identified yourself as a person who is not safe. And if that's who they know you as, and you haven't been around them for a while, or if you are around them and you may have stopped saying these things, but you haven't made it clear that you are now working to become an ally to the community, that's something that you need to focus on doing if you want to be invited into someone's space and have them share their identity with you in that way. Another thing is you need to protect your more marginalized people, your more marginalized community members and friends. Like you got to be willing to stand up for people and stand in that gap. And if somebody's coming and saying, hey, yo, stop saying that shit, that's bullshit, or don't do that, and be willing to stand up for people, because it gets tired. We have to do it every day for ourselves, and there's no comfort in having a friend that's gonna just hang you out to dry or throw you under the bus.
And like Toni said, if you're hanging out with people that are doing stupid fuckery shit like that, and you just standing by either giggling or laughing or not saying anything, of course I'm gonna think you agree with this person that's doing that. So
right. And you're sending a message whether you say something or not. So that's very important as well. And when I'll speak about work, in professional settings, I've felt more comfortable when companies have spoken openly about their support for the LGBTQ plus community when you first get there, when they do ethics. In some states, you're gonna have to, because it's illegal to discriminate.
Yeah.
But be clear that this is a safe space. Then you have to back that up. If you see somebody doing bullshit or being homophobic, that cannot in any way be tolerated. If you want to make your company or your just space, even if it's not a business or a place you're hanging out, your house, or your organization, a safe space for the queer community, you can't tolerate the homophobia or transphobia there. And as far as the blocking the intersection, this is really important. I've seen a lot of that, particularly in beer, is you can't ask people to choose. I am Black and queer and trans and autistic. All of that is,
Toni.
yeah, all of that is expressed all the time. I don't want to have to pick whether or not I'm going to be Black today or queer today. To me, queer issues are Black issues because I am a Black queer person.
Right.
Issues with neurodivergence and ableism, not that neurological divergence is an issue, but the ableism that, in response to it, is a Black issue, is a queer issue, because I am both of those things also. So make sure you're welcoming the whole person and don't just focus on one of those things when you go to try to invite somebody in. That's the big thing about blocking the intersection. You can't block an intersection if you get all the traffic moving in the same direction. All right, so Zach says, done good work in making beer a good vehicle for open conversations about intersectionality. How can we as consumers make sure breweries are truly promoting diversity and inclusion?
Hold them accountable for their shit. There are so many fucking breweries that people just glorify. And I'm like, the people that run this brewery are full of fucking shit. There are people that say that they're Black owned breweries and the one Black person that they shove out in front has less than 5%. That does not make you a Black owned brewery. You're not even diverse because it's this one Black dude and 4 other white people. Like, that's not diverse.
It also depends on who's making the decisions too.
If you, and there are some people that love to be tokenized and love to be that Black person that, that's all a different story.
Or the queer person.
Yeah. And the group I love, the BA, is a fucking blueprint of, I have a Black person, here is a lesbian, here is a Black lesbian, here is a woman that we work with, like dumb shit like that. It's like, stop labeling people, stop putting people in little fucking boxes. I cannot stand with a fucking passion, and I wish I could backhand everyone who said this to me, you don't look gay. Oh, I never would have guessed you don't look gay. Who the fuck do, like, if
what is gay?
I feel like people think like if you cut me, I'm supposed to bleed a fucking rainbow. Like, what does that even mean? I don't look gay. Stop fucking assuming shit. Ask a person, what do you identify as? If you encounter a trans or non-binary person and they have particular pronouns that they would like to be referred to as or how they identify as, it is the simplest thing in the fucking world you can do, is to address someone by their preferred fucking pronouns. I don't understand what's so fucking difficult about that. A lot of people do that to Toni and they refer to her as my wife, or, they say happy, National Lesbian Day to Toni. Toni's not a lesbian. She doesn't identify as a cis woman. You know what I mean? Like, just ask. It's not to say that you should walk up to everyone and, but if someone's entering your establishment, if you work at a hotel, if you work, how would you like me to address you? That fucking simple.
Yeah, and another to Zach's question about how you can hold breweries accountable, push them to center the most marginalized people. I see a lot of initiatives going on that absolutely should be intersectional, but they're not doing a very good job. I mean, I think Brave Noise is a good initiative, but I'm not seeing any women of color, not Black women, not, Black non-binary people, not Black trans people being represented in that. I see white women, it's mostly white cis het women in that. And I've seen Black women what's the lady from Pink Boots' name?
Oh, I'm forgetting her name.
But yeah, there's a Black lady that was running for some office in Pink Boots, and she's been talking about all the sexism and stuff that she's experienced, but that no one even paid her any attention. This was long before any of this went on. So pushing people to center the most marginalized, or saying that I want to see, you know, more support. If your breweries are doing, Danny Oliver is the lady's name. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and my whole thing about holding them accountable is if they're saying we are inclusive, you know, we support LGBT, we support Black, we support all this shit, you know, because it's great marketing right now, and they do some fuckery, they do some dumb shit, address them on that. You just said that you were a safe place, but you did this as Black women. You just said you were a safe place, but we're seeing all these, you know, people in the LGBT community saying how you discriminate against them. Call them on that. Don't just sit back and wait for the people in that community to start making noise. Call them on that shit. And also hit them where it hurts. Stop fucking buying their goddamn beer.
It's the biggest thing you can do as a consumer. There's so many
fucking breweries, and people continue to support Founders. Why is anyone drinking fucking Founders?
Yeah, and another thing with as a consumer, if your brewery that you frequent, or a brewery that you want to go to, like, or a place that you spend time at, is doing fundraisers or initiatives, say, hey, what about this? Or I want to see, you know, some intersectionality in here. You know, can we get, you know, a more marginalized person that also is part of this group to be part of this this initiative? A lot of that, I've been in Chicago over the weekend. The influence some of the just consumers around here have at some of these breweries is insane. So you have more power than you probably think you do.
You definitely have the power, because you are the bread and butter. You are the one that are making it so these people can stay open. So if you want to hold them accountable, and if they don't correct their fucking actions, and swiftly at that, stop fucking giving them your money. They won't be around. Like, if you go to a bottle shop and they're, you know, have such and such, you know, beer and such rate such and such, stop. Tell them, why are you holding beer that of this brewery where this man did this, that, and that? Maybe they don't know. I'm sure they do, but maybe they don't know. Bring it to their attention. Like, just I feel like, and a lot of people call it cancel culture, whatever the fuck it is. I'm not gonna spend my money or support anyone that does fuck shit. Period. It's you can call it whatever the fuck you want to make you feel better about it. That's not gonna happen. And I feel like if more people did that, I'm not naive. I know these, you know, cis old white ass men don't give a fuck about anyone but other cis white ass old men. How fucking ever. If they want my motherfucking business and my motherfucking money, they're going to come correct. It's real fucking simple. And I feel like most people need to have that mentality. I mean, it's not a hard concept. No, there's so many fucking breweries and so much fucking beer for you to choose one. You're not gonna die.
And that's a big thing too. There's a lot of breweries out here for us to be supporting folks that are have oppressive practices.
This is not like a market where there's like one or two beer companies. Like, stop. And that's another thing. Like, when I notice people, when you hear all these horrible stories and you still support these people, of course that makes me look at you like you're a fucking idiot too. Because there are a lot of people who are, you know, oh my God, Black and Soul, great work. Let me go pop open a Founders.
Yeah.
You know?
And another thing, the one small thing you can do is, like, if they have single stall restrooms,
yeah,
just have them put, you know, some gender neutral signage on there to show that it's a restroom. And, you know, it's a one person water closet. You don't need to gender that.
Where do we just go? Hopewell? They did that? Hopewell did that. They put, you know, person.
They said water closet, the WC, and anybody could go in any one of those. You don't even have to be looking for which one you need to go in there.
Specify anything if It's one fucking toilet.
Mhm.
Why are you specifying it?
But yeah, I mean, like, I think that's a fairly simple
yes
thing you can do to be inclusive of the queer community in the tap room and such. Also, when people do take part in initiatives, there has to be, like April says, some accountability in that. So if they're saying they're donating money to this for this queer initiative or that, it needs to go there and they need to be willing
Where's
to
the
show that
receipts?
receipt. If they're unwilling to do that or somehow appalled that they're being asked, that's a red flag.
Because the only person I've ever seen do that and volunteer that information was Libby of Second Shift. Libby posts fucking receipts. We donate, this is what we donated. Here's the fucking receipt with the information on it. I don't understand why you would get pissy about it, block out, you know, any information. I understand that you know, your personal shit, but I don't understand why you would feel bad about posting the receipts. You know,
or just put it somewhere on your website to where, you know, if people want that information, they can go and see it. You don't want to tokenize or act like you're a, you know, a straight or cis savior when
Yeah.
it comes to stuff like that. But you do want to be accountable for what you said you would
you're gonna do
provide and the support you said you provide for the community. But I see a lot of folks supporting youth groups, supporting things like that. The same with the Black community. There's groups for queer youth and stuff too. You can support their initiatives. You know, if they have an out and proud baseball team, consider sponsoring them instead of the same one you do with your, you know, regular coworkers, friends,
yeah
sons. Maybe switch it up and maybe one year you help some queer people do their sports team or whatever else. But I see a lot of things that breweries are doing that could include more people than they do.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because like there are a lot of breweries, especially when you go to smaller breweries, you know, of course they support local, you know, schools and, you know, local teams, which is great. You're a part of that community. But if you know that team is already set, they're pretty good. How about you think out of the box and help people that don't get a lot of support, don't get a lot of visibility?
Yeah.
Kind of like spread the love. Like I know certain organizations, y'all are good. Yeah, you know, I want to do my part and donate, but I would rather donate to someone who is hard up and really needs it, or just starting up. Organizations that are just starting and getting on their feet, they need the most support.
Yeah, so they're the most marginalized. And that's fair. But yeah, we've talked y'all's ears off. Anybody got any other questions?
Like we
They
do
can
so well.
they can be personal questions. I think everybody on here is pretty
Pretty much
pretty decent. Not gonna say anything too crazy. Y'all got any other questions for us? Yeah, anything you want to share about, you know, what it's like to be a Black lesbian in the beer community?
It's hard out here. But I just want people to keep in mind the reason why some people are so loud and go so hard is because no one else is. You feel very unprotected. You feel very disrespected. And to just take that in mind when people act or come across a certain way that they do. Maybe they're going that hard because they have no help. I don't have, you know, big money behind me or a couple thousand, hundred.
I'm just mad you pointed at me like I was just broke or something.
No. I'm just saying, like a lot of people always, well, why are you cussing? Why are you? Because you don't fucking listen.
Yeah, if you have to do that to get heard, that's
when I'm, you know, nice April and, you know, excuse me, what about this, that, and the third, I get ignored. When I call you, you know, an asshole and talk about your fucking mama, I get your goddamn attention. Just listen. Believe, and also believe people. People don't come up, I would hope to God, people don't come up with sob stories and sexual assaults, and people don't lie to kick it. I don't think
the
anyone
thing about that is that so few people make shit like that.
Yeah, no one's gonna lie about
you don't
shit
want to
like
punish
that.
people who do have these.
Don't victim blame. That's the equivalent to me, like, what was she wearing? That a woman can walk down the street fucking naked. A person can walk down the street fucking naked. That doesn't give anybody the fucking right to touch them or to do anything to them that they don't want to happen. Like, don't victim blame. Don't ask why. Fucking listen. Believe.
Okay. Was coming out as trans different than when you came out earlier in life? I imagine that is a question for me. And short answer is yes, it was very different. The biggest difference for me with that, and I'm still coming out to some people, is that everybody understands what gay is. Everybody understands what it means to be gay or love someone of the same gender or be attracted to someone of the same gender. So that made it not necessarily easier, but much more straightforward to come out the first time. Coming out as non-binary, I didn't even know what non-binary meant until maybe 6 months before I came out myself. So some people get what it means to be trans. Most folks don't know very many trans people at all. And even folks who are well aware and comfortable with the trans binary, non-binary doesn't make sense to them. And then how is it trans if you didn't go all the way to the other end of the spectrum?
Yeah.
So coming out as that, they're like, what does that mean? And what does that mean? And everybody calls that, and they don't understand why the gender neutral pronouns or gender neutral ways to refer. And it's taken a lot of people some time to get used to that, especially on the end of my biological family in dealing with
My
that.
parents
So
too.
it's much different.
What I can say is, someone, if you consider yourself a trans ally, which I do, just educate yourself. Toni is not, the spokesman for non-binary people. Educate yourself. There's a lot of books, and buy books from people that are in that community. I am not going to buy a book written by Tom, Michelson, that is a straight cis man, if I want to know about non-binary people. That's number one. But educate yourself. I think it's okay to ask questions and not assume. I had to talk about that with my parents, because when I told them, well, Toni, is non-binary, had to explain the term. My mom automatically assumed, well, she wants to get a sex change. That was her first fucking question. No, she does not want to get a sex change.
Those are two separate things.
And that it goes again into people putting people in boxes. You have to be like this, or that means this. Does not mean that. And I think it would mean a lot if someone does come out to you and I'm not saying ask them 35,000 questions, but what does that term mean?
And you have to be okay with people who might not necessarily be comfortable going into detail.
Yeah.
You gotta be, you still have to be able to respect that.
And just educate yourself. I didn't know about non-binary when Toni came out. I had to educate myself. I know how it feels to be the spokesperson of certain shit, and I didn't want to bombard her with questions. So I took the time, the 5 seconds it took to go to Google, to get the resources, to see these authors, to hear their stories, to better understand my spouse.
And the thing about it is, like, what I will say about that, and then I'll answer this question I have here, is that this is the person I'm married to. My wife's telling you that she's doing this because she doesn't want to bombard me, the closest person to her, with that. Imagine how you should think about approaching somebody you don't know. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm opening the door for questions here, and I'm comfortable with whatever questions people want to ask. But if you don't know somebody, you probably want to tread a bit lighter with the questions and how you approach them to ask certain things.
And you just have to use common sense. This person's probably already going through a lot. This person's already probably scared and nervous to tell you this information. They have to care about you, hold you near and dear to actually even tell you this shit. The least you can do is go out and do the legwork. They already did, the hard part. Legwork is not hard. Legwork is me sitting on my fucking couch eating Doritos, reading, and trying to take it in.
All right, so another question. Can you go more into your pronouns, Toni, and can your preferred pronouns be used interchangeably? That's a good question.
Very good question.
And that's one I'll take a couple minutes to answer. So, so
I'm sorry,
I
y'all,
have
this chair
two,
is
I
so
use
uncomfortable.
two sets of, maybe I should have given you this one. I use two sets of pronouns. I use they, them pronouns and she, her pronouns. I favor they, them pronouns, other than people I knew as a kid or people very close to me. I am more comfortable with people who are very close to me, like April, my parents, and people I've known my whole life using she, her. If it's somebody I just met, they need to use the they, them. That's what I favor. I mean, I'm not gonna be upset if someone calls me she or her. And to be honest, I have both sets of pronouns in my email at my job. And people still don't get that, but I favor they, them. You can interchange them, but I favor the they, them pronouns. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. But yeah, Zach's asking a lot of really good questions.
Yes, so Zach the lawyer.
Any, yeah, he's a lawyer. I guess he learned a thing or two about asking questions.
And to piggyback off that, it's very, very hard. I do that to Patrice all the time. I call them she, or I call them my sis. You know, when I first met them, it's because we were all taught to talk a certain way. So I understand that it's tricky, but it doesn't take a lot to put in the effort. And I've been around Patrice and I've said she, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, it's fine. Toni is the same way. No one's gonna bite your damn head off, but take the time to put in that effort to correct yourself.
Yeah, self-correcting is a little easier. I mean, speaking from my perspective, it's better if people don't make a huge production out of it. Self-correct and move on.
Yeah, I've done it. I've missed it. I've done that to Helen. It happens. I just have to take the extra step to get my shit together, because it's the least you can do. I'm telling you, it's the simplest act of fucking kindness to have someone to come out and tell their story and just to address them how they would like to be addressed. It's a very simple act of kindness because that person probably has been through a lot.
Yeah, it's true. All right, anybody got any other questions for us? I knew we were gonna take up a lot of time when I invited April on here to do it with me. She's gonna have a lot of
I don't be talking a lot, y'all.
a lot to say, but yeah, if anybody's got any questions for me or April or about beer, about us, about our coming out, about
Gay shit,
queer identities, yeah, ask away. It's an open forum for the questions for sure. But another thing I will say is that not understanding or being used to or familiar with, I would say is a better way to put it, a way a person identifies or who a person is not any excuse for you to decide that, oh, what they're saying doesn't make any sense and I'm going to call them this or I'm going to refer to them as that. Don't do that. I mean, sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around certain things. I know because I had to wrap my head around what being non-binary meant before I could come out and, and share my identity with myself and everyone else. But so many people have decided to try to, to tell me I'm not trans or I'm just scared to transition all the way and come out as a trans man, or being non-binary doesn't make any sense. And what does that even mean? You have to choose one, or, you just made this up, or you're trying to get attention or doing oppression Olympics by now they're coming out as trans. And I can guarantee you 0 people are gonna do that. No one's gonna pretend to be trans. I can promise you.
bruh. And
no one's gonna know.
I know exactly who she's talking about, and I'm trying to bite my tongue. And that person is one of the most miserable people I've ever come across. Again, to tell someone, well, I'm not calling you that, I'm calling you by the name your mama gave you, or you're not this, you're that. Who the fuck are you? Like, please do not be that fucking person. I understand if you have a baby brother, a baby sister, maybe even a parent that comes out as, non-binary, transgender, gay, whatever. I understand that could be hard to understand. I
learn a new
understand
person.
it can sometimes, I don't know how, but for some people it might be hurtful. I don't know. I understand that. But for you to sit up there and to be so blatantly disrespectful and so blatantly like a shitbag person, to tell that person they aren't who the fuck they are. I don't even know how it feels like to be, I'm not in the right body. That would drive, y'all know me, that would drive me fucking insane. And then for someone to sit up here and tell you, oh, that's just the most offensive, hurtful, hateful shit that you can do to someone. Like, don't be that person. I understand if you need a moment to step back and to wrap your head, like she said, wrap your head around it, research it, or just let it sit with your spirit. Sometimes you need to let shit sit. You may not understand it. You may not understand your feelings. Maybe you need to sit with it, but don't come at someone like that. That's so fucking hurtful. This person is coming out to you because they love you,
inviting you into them,
because they care about you. They obviously, in some way, shape, or form, care about what you think. They're telling you. They're telling you for a reason. And if you just are so negative, it's just hurtful. It's really hurtful. And you can honestly, I'm being completely 110%. If my mom were like, oh my God, and you're just being, that would turn me off to where I wouldn't tell her shit. I would not want to fucking be around her. If you don't value that person and you don't care whether or not you have them in your life, go for it. Douchebag, say whatever the fuck you want to say. But if you love that person, I understand if you don't understand. I understand if it's hurtful. Just sit with it. You don't have to have a reaction right then and there. But don't be negative, because I'm telling you, I've heard people, I've waited such and such years, I couldn't tell my mom. I was 20 fucking 2. Do you know how long that buildup was to tell her? That's at that time, the most important person in my fucking life. And if she were negative, we would have no relationship.
Yeah, April's cut off queen over here. Quick. But okay, another good question. Zach says, what advice would you give to people who feel that they aren't ready or able to come out? Okay. So it depends. To me, it depends on what their situation actually is, or what they want to do. What I will say is, you do not have to come out. You don't have to do it if you don't want to do it at all. And you can also think of it as inviting someone in. Is this person worth inviting into my space and sharing my identity with in any way at all? Or are they, the marginal, and it's not something that I want to talk to them about? That's okay too. Now, if it's that you don't want to come out,
that's your prerogative. Yeah.
Don't do it. If you don't want to do it, just like we tell kids things sexually, if you don't want to do them, don't. Same with this. If you don't want to come out, don't. You don't have to. You are not. Nobody is entitled to that part of you or entitled to that information. But if you feel like you want to share that part of yourself but are in an unsafe situation, I would encourage you to seek resources, seek community with people who share your identity. And then maybe your community can help you share that piece of yourself with somebody. I'm not advocating necessarily for people to come out in situations or to people who are unsafe, or that they're gonna, but if you feel compelled to do that, I would say that you seek some support and community to help you, to assist you in making that.
I would strongly advise you that, just for your own peace of mind, your own mental health. Like Toni said, it's up to you. If you don't, you can be a grown ass woman like me, a grown ass person. I didn't ever think that I would get kicked out or anything like that, but some people are in a situation where their families will disown them, and they are children getting kicked out. And if you're in that situation, I wholeheartedly hold that near and dear to your heart, so you feel like you are in a safe environment. but I would strongly suggest you finding some kind of outlet. The internet is like heaven and hell at the same time. There are a lot of resources now because of social media where you can find groups of people that support you. Some of my closest friends, weirdly, on the internet, met her on the internet. Be mindful of personal information, of course, but definitely for your own mental health, just find resources and find a community. They don't even have to be gay people.
No.
The first 10 people that I talked to about this, they didn't identify as being gay. It doesn't have to be a gay person, just someone who is supportive, that will be there and that won't run their mouth. But if you can find a friend, doesn't have to be a whole group, someone that you can be, that can be your sounding board, because you'll need to get shit out, especially if you feel alone. That's my suggestion. Just find someone or a community that you could speak with and share your feelings and thoughts.
And there's some hotlines. There are a lot of resources for you to reach out to, but you want to find community. And if the unsafe person is somebody who controls your living situation or your basic necessities, that's something you want to weigh out. And when I said don't come out, I'm saying if you do not want to, don't come out. Not let somebody force you into a closet you don't want to be in. If you want to come out,
do it.
You want to find the safest way to do that, and there are resources. And when I post this video to our YouTube, I'll make sure I put some links and numbers.
And that's what I was gonna say. Pages like ours, if you just go into search, a lot of pages will come up that identify with the LGBT community. And even if you message that person, a lot of us, and I'm starting to do this, have, like she said, hotlines, support groups, counseling groups, and not counseling because we're gay, but counseling with navigating being gay and not having any support.
Well, yeah, it's not conversion.
I want to make that clear. But a lot of these pages are businesses that solely say, we gay and proud type of situation, have those resources. And if they don't have them readily available, they can, it's a very small network. We can often navigate you to the right group of people. So, just reach out. You don't have to go into much detail.
And if anybody watching this is questioning, in any of this, or questioning their identity, or concerned or confused, or wants to talk it out, or wants to find more resources, we're here. You can talk to us if you're comfortable doing that. Our DMs are open. It's at Black and Soul. It's Black with a Q. On Instagram and Twitter, you can always send us a message if you're concerned or if you need something. We might not always have resources. We're pretty small, but if you need somebody to talk to, or you need help crowdfunding to help, your deal with some situation that you have going on because you're in an unsafe, we'll try our best to help you. And we do have a decent network of some friends that we think we could probably get to help, but we can help you navigate it and try to work through it with you together. But I appreciate everybody tuning into this. Thank you for spending some time with us on a Monday afternoon. This was recorded, so we'll make sure we place
coming out day.
place this on YouTube for the folks that didn't get to see it live, or maybe came in a little bit later and didn't see the beginning of it. So it'll be on the Black and Soul YouTube page for that. But and again, support your gay friends, respect your gay friends and queer friends and trans friends, and protect your queer and trans friends and family. But like I said, we are Black and Soul, a Black queer group in the beer industry, food and beer. Hit us up on Instagram and Twitter. And if you got questions about anything going on with Black culture, or being gay, or being both, and or being trans and trying to navigate that and come out, send us a message. We're happy to talk it out with you. Until then, we will see you next time.
Bye, y'all.